going with Ryan's guitar playing, but I have to tell a story. This is for everybody who's a late bloomer, or, yeah, there's a few of us out there, or who likes a party. Now I hope everybody applauds. And a quick life story. I grew up outside Philadelphia, went to college in North Carolina, which was as far away as I could imagine. It was a 7 or 8 hour drive, and now that's what I do before lunch. But that was like a long drive when you're a 17-year-old going to college. I went to Duke University. I was a business major. I became an Alaska fiddling poet. You know, it's a different kind of career path. In my 20s is when I started playing fiddle. I thought I should be writing at some time, and I moved to Seattle in my late 20s. People asked, how did I get to Alaska? I had a romance that didn't work. You go to further from Seattle, there I was in Fairbanks, Alaska in an MFA program in creative writing. And what was so eye-opening in Fairbanks, at the end of every semester, we always had a party. And I thought, if I ever taught in college or university, we would always have a party. Fast forward a few years later, and I was the writing teacher in Nome, Alaska, for the University of Alaska campus in Nome. I don't know who's been to Alaska, but I'm probably the only person here who's been to Nome, which
I've
is...
been to Nome.
Who's been to Nome?
I've been to Nome.
Oh, God. Nome is a far place. You're a couple hundred miles from Russia. Nome is the biggest thing. In fact, I didn't tell this last night, but there's all these great fiddle players and banjo players and singers. This is an amazing lineup. I've been blessed from the time I started playing in North Carolina, being around people who are the best. And I've always been really shy about my playing because there are always people who are better. But when I lived in Nome, I was the best for 1,000 miles. It was really good for my confidence. And when I lived in Nome, I taught writing over telephone. I traveled to villages. Actually, I went to places where not only was I the best for 1,000 miles, I was making history by carrying a fiddle there. But that's another story in that to have a party when you're teaching over telephone where you only get to places by plane was a challenge. But I did, and I have a poem called Class Party Nome. There were 14 people, 8 sites, semester final meeting. From the Nome classroom, I called attendance, kicked off festivities by picking Irish jig, a reel, New England hornpipe on mandolin. 2 young women exchanged tunes from Mogadon, warbled folk songs in Russian. Next to 3 guys from prison acted the courtroom drama they'd scripted, Appeal to God. From the village of Wales, Vince blew his harmonica, strummed guitar, and sang Woody Guthrie. From the Union Creek Baptist Church, Loretta played Bach. From Koyuk, Polly told the story her grandfather had told on his deathbed, and so on, until Tammy from Nome counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Asked everybody everywhere to reach for the cookies she'd mailed late last week and munch. It's probably Huey from jail who hammed the comic smacking noises. And I closed by fiddling the waltz in D I'd written for those who had dropped, who had earlier dismissed themselves. So we had a talent show party over the phone, and I had a brilliant student who baked cookies, mailed them with the instructions to take them to class. It would be as if Manhattan had 3,500 people, and if you wanted to go from here to Tarrytown, you had to get on an airplane. There were only 600 people, and to get to Newark, to get on an airplane, there's only like 400 people. And if you want to go to Suffolk County in Long Island, there's maybe 800 people, and you have to get on a plane. There's no rail, there's no cars, no bridges, and everybody eating cookies at the same time. That's what we did for fun in the early 90s in Nome. I'm gonna get my fiddle and play that tune one time with Ryan here. One more time. July, I was driving on I-81 South and heard there was a shooting in a theater in Lafayette, and there were a couple of fatalities, and one of them was Jillian Johnson. And the other fatality was a woman named Mayci Breaux, who was at school at LSUE. So when I did my show there, I shared a couple poems. So as Jen plays accordion and Leigh plays the rubboard, which is the music of Louisiana, they're going to be ending the show with their 5-piece band Mojo. But why don't you start playing? And I got a poem that, in memory of Jillian Johnson and former LSUE student Mayci Breaux. The last time I saw you, really saw you, you ladled me a full bowl of gumbo, poured me a beer and smiled. The scene so like you. Your store rearranged. On stage 2, favorite musicians. A party for a few hundred friends, plus odd folks you didn't know. Several blocks down the street, Zydeco bands and 1,000 festival goers. You always liked making big things better. That was you, big smile, beautiful, tall, and such big ideas. And then you did the work. Oh, death. Our strange world is getting stranger. At another festival, this one last fall, I saw you waltz by. You played and you worked. I shared that poem at LSUE, and I wrote a poem specific for the show called Absolutely Eunice. For everybody who spent time, or another 3 or 4 weeks, we got Mardi Gras down there, and I'll be down there myself. That's my second home, is in Louisiana. Absolutely Eunice, this poem is called. Every place is an absolutely special place. Up here in between Crowley and Mamou, nowhere is quite so town, country, Cajun. I can hear French and see the honest truths. I can go dance to the absolute fine old music. Earth, yes, has absolutely blessed this place. And I'm going to read one more poem I didn't read last night with this. I get in trouble if I ever get political, and I'm not going to be political except a little bit because we have an election year coming up, so there's presenters who are saying, we don't have to get political, but we can do a little something in October or September coming up, or summer. I have this poem called Suffering Democracy, and since Jillian was a victim of one of those gun shootings that we have had in this country, I have this poem called Suffering Democracy. Instead of a gun or knife or pill or drink or punching the wall, the dogs screaming at kids, or holding too many pains too deep, brutal parents, cruel lovers, bad bosses, debts, illnesses, dying friends, extinct creatures, absent God, near ruined planet. First, grip a pen and write. Then pick a place and plant. Then be patient and let grow. Then enter a small booth, pull around the blue curtain, kiss that ballot, and vote. Jen Maurer, Leigh, they're going to be around later. Are you going to lay down and beat, you dancers? Okay. This is for everybody who has ever spent time in Juneau, Alaska. And Martha's here, and I know Martha from Juneau way back, but now she has Quicksilver Productions, so you know Quicksilver, they are our friends. And one of my friends is a fellow named Jack Fontanella, who is a banjo player, guitar player, stand-up bass player, dance caller, teaches first and second graders, a happy guy. Richie knows him, Martha knows him, I sure know him. And I remember seeing him in the Juneau post office not looking happy. I said, Jack, how you doing? He said, not good. I said, not good? He said, yeah, house burned down. As a musician, that is a terrible thing. And Juneau is like other places, so Jack and Jenna, his partner, now his wife, I mean, they were girlfriend, but now they're married. People in Juneau found them a place. Within a week, people raised money. Jack had another guitar. What I did 3 weeks later, I was leading a writing workshop. And I wrote something that I was thinking about, which is what those instruments sounded like right before they burnt up. This is Burnt Down House for Jack Fontanella. The night of the cabin fire, in the midst of cupboards and kitchenware, closets and clothes, when the flames came picking. I like to think how the two guitars, mandolin, banjo, bass, and fiddle might jumped out of their skins a moment to make the craziest, most raucous, caterwauling noise. Enough riotous jabberwock to fuel a dozen generations old-time string bands. We're slipping back into maple. You can smoke hot and right. The instruments last bright. Denali, festival of sound. I wrote that, I gave to Jack. I heard he had it on his refrigerator door, and as he was getting on with his life, I said, Jack, I make up fiddle tunes. Would you like a fiddle tune, Burnt Down House? And he should have said, fiddling poet, don't press your luck. But he said, okay. And I gave him the big question, with old-time music, key of A or key of D? And he said, key of D. And so, like, this class party set, one of my talents is I've gotten old and I know like the most talented people in the world is what it feels like. So I'm going to play Burnt Down House to the percussive dance. And Aaron Lewis, who was never, I guess he heard this tune last night, I trust that he will do something with twin fiddle with me. And then after this ends, Evie Ladin and Keith Terry are going to come up and we're going to vacate the stage. Are you up here now?
Yep.
I don't know. She could be.
Right behind you.
Oh, God. I didn't even know. This was different than last night. Evie wasn't up. Okay, so Burnt Down House. And if you don't know them, you're in for a bigger treat.
Thanks, Ken. Here we go. Keith, Sarah, you up here?